Let's start with the Sunday Mirror, which alleges on its front page that Conservative MP Richard Fuller has received more than £700,000 from work outside his parliamentary role. The Mirror also carries a quote from Labour, which has said the so-called Sleaze scandal gets worse by the day.
Flicking over to the front page of the Sunday Telegraph now, where the Foreign Secretary Liz Truss has been saying she told Vladimir Putin that he must end the shameful manufactured migrant crisis reaching Europe's eastern borders. Ms Truss saying Russia has a clear responsibility to end Belarus's attempt to use desperate migrants as pawns to destabilise the region.
The Sunday People has an exclusive on its front page saying the Duchess of Sussex's sister, Samantha, is in talks with lawyers and wants to sue the royal. It also runs with a tribute to Freddie Mercury on the 30th anniversary of his death.
The lead story for The Observer today, centring on allegations from previously unpublished extracts from Jennifer Arcuri's diary. The American businesswoman claiming she and Boris Johnson had an intimate affair whilst he was Mayor of London. The paper also alleging that Mr Johnson overruled the advice of staff to promote Miss Arcuri's business interests and win her affections.
Turning to the UK's borders, and the Mail on Sunday says the outgoing head of Border Force has described bloody borders, and I quote, as just such a pain in the bleep. Paul Lincoln allegedly made those remarks during a speech to mark his departure as Director General of Border Force.
I love it when you said bleep just then. That's so cute. The Independent for today turning its attention north, and the deal reached at COP26 saying Sharma apologised at the end of the day for the watered-down coal deal. That coming as China and India allegedly made last-minute changes to the deal they'd agreed by threatening to withdraw altogether.
Elsewhere, the Sunday Express reports that the PM has pledged £50 million to find a cure for motor neuron disease. Mr Johnson has reportedly said he will throw the full weight of government behind a new mission to find a cure.
And finally, Daily Star, as always, creative with its reporting. And they're talking about a mysterious Bigfoot finally been found with evidence to back it up, apparently. The shockingly silly Canadian myth now turned up, apparently, in Birmingham.
Of all places.
Well, Star. Is it a newspaper? Is it a comic? We don't know.
Well, joining us now to look at the biggest stories from today's papers is broadcaster and journalist Andrew Eborn. Andrew, what has caught your eye this morning?
Well,
Good morning to you.
Bleep, as they say, in that glorious moment. I'll tell you what, some great stories, a lot around the music industry. You mentioned about Freddie Mercury on the front pages. Brilliant, so tragic, 30 years, can you believe, since he passed, and what a showman. Another great story in the music industry is about Paul McCartney and the Beatles, because the wonderful Peter Jackson, Lord of the Rings, and he has discovered 56 hours of film and 130 hours of audio, new audio, which is put together in a new documentary called Get Back. And it basically changes the people's perception about the Beatles and how they split up. Because you might remember Paul said one of his favourite photos was taken by Linda, his then wife, in 1969, which showed John and Paul gloriously working together, having a lot of fun. There was then that big split, and there was that acrimonious thing, which is all documented. And what they were sort of saying, they started writing, you remember, in the press, too many people by McCartney, how do you sleep, all those sort of horrible, sleazy things. What's happened, this new footage, I can hold it up here. There you go, over there.
That's great.
Hold it up over there. What they've discovered is that there's this wonderful footage which shows a different side to them. And Paul is basically saying, look, I'll tell you what's really fabulous. I won't do my Liverpudlian accent because it's not very good. I'll tell you what is really fabulous about it, a thrilled McCartney says. It shows the four of us having a ball. The film reminds him sweetly of that photo by Linda, which I mentioned in '69. It was so reaffirming for me. That was one of the important things about the Beatles. We could make each other laugh. John and I in this footage are doing the two of us, and for some reason we decided to do it like ventriloquists. So you get a glorious behind-the-scenes moment. They always say in media, if you want to draw a crowd, start a fight. And so often, with bands that get together, you have it with Oasis, you have the Liam, the brothers there, they start a fight, and that gets played out in the media. The same with the Beatles and various others. The media will portray fractions and difficulties in order to get those headlines. Yes, there were difficulties, but this shines a new light, and so it's great new footage.
Where has this footage come from?
Well, it was in apparently the archives, you know, and this is the incredible thing. So Apple and so on and so forth, they have lots of this footage. It's rather similar this week. You probably saw that Victoria Wood, they've discovered some of this new footage. And basically they're coming out with all these things which people thought were left behind. So what I love about it is that it shines the spotlight on a really good industry. We punch way above our weight in the creative industries around the world. And shining a spotlight, getting people like Freddie, getting people like Paul to do that, are great advocates. At the other end of the scale, what people forget is that when we had the lockdown, so many people were affected. Not just the artists who couldn't perform on stage anymore, and some of them got quite creative about doing Zoom shows, which is quite interesting. It's all about the extra industry. It's about the stage technicians, it's about the people behind the scenes, it's about the concessions, and the whole industry for several months was devastated as a result of lockdown.
And such a refreshing angle as well, that the Beatles were happy. I mean, constantly, as you say, the media loves factions, loves fights. Nice, actually, to have something positive for once. Why not?
I love a positive thing. And the other positive thing as well is it also shows slightly how valuable the industry is. And at the moment, there's a discrepancy in the industry, which we should talk about, because the chief exec of Universal Music just recently announced a wonderful chap called Sir Lucian Grange, who does a brilliant job. Universal is worth billions. His bonus, and it's only his bonus, was $150 million. $150 million. That's what they're talking about for the bonus, about 110 quid in current exchange rate. You compare that to what artists are earning through streaming services. So Gary Newman, famous Gary Newman, you know him, Cars and all that sort of glorious stuff. He had 1 million streams, and he earned £37.
Wow.
Now that has got to be wrong, doesn't it? So when we're looking at things in the industry, that's what we've got to focus on. The creative industries are the heart and soul of this country. We punch, as I say, way above our weight. For a small island compared with the rest of the world, this is one of our biggest exports.
But you are talking about Gary Newman. I mean, I had a Gary Newman album myself many years ago, but I mean, he's not very relevant, if I may say, at the moment.
It's not about relevance, though. It's about the numbers, because what Gary did is, as I say, it's 1 million streams.
Still 1 million, right?
So it's 1 million streams, whether it's Gary or Joe Bloggs or Andrew Eborn, it's 1 million streams. And so it's the question of the value of the 1 million streams. So you're right, artists enjoy a resurrection at different sort of stages. But I think looking at that side is interesting. And the other thing about resurrections, the great thing about the news at the moment, ABBA going round and they're doing... I love it. It's all got to be good. Well, half of them, the ladies decide they don't want to do the interviews. They want to leave it to the men to do the things because they don't want to get involved.
They just want to have the fun,
They want to have the fun.
The ladies.
But what the men were saying is when they first started talking about ABBA, they got confused because they said ABBA, it's something coming out of Sweden. They assumed they were porn stars.
Are you serious?
Yes. So, and they were sort of saying in the interview, good heavens, this is not the sort of thing that we want. So does your mother? No, I guess you work on that sort of basis. So, but this is what they said. And there was a lot of confusion about getting that sort of side over. But they're now doing these digital resurrections. They're using technology. What did you think? Have you heard any of the new album?
I watched the ABBA tribute show last night on TV. Oh. They have had hit after hit after hit, haven't they? You forget until you're faced with 15 in a row and you know all the words.
I know. It's quite extraordinary. But what I also love is that they don't want to show how they used to look. They show the now, the people's memories, their memories at the moment. So they're doing these digital resurrections.
Yeah.
And we're involved in things like holograms. I do a lot with my own company, Octopus TV, and we look at that sort of side. And what's interesting is how you resurrect that. And I was also involved. We produced with Addison Jackson, the BAFTA award-winning artist. We produced the latest video for Duran Duran, who are celebrating 40 years in the industry. And basically, Addison is famous for using lookalikes and put them in extraordinary situations. And what we did, we went up to Belvoir Castle, glorious place where they shoot the crown, and we recorded them with a lot of lookalikes. So we had also the younger band. So you could see what Duran Duran used to look like in the days. Which was quite fun.
That sounds great. Andrew, let's stick with resurrections. Let's talk about Christmas, shall we? And lots of odd and funny things up for sale.
Well, I was quite sad to hear that people's Christmas presents this year is either going to be cash or these vouchers.
Do you feel Christmassy yet? I mean...
Oh, I feel Christmas every day of the year.
Oh, the Christmas spirit in you, Andrew.
But well, they've just switched on the lights. Yes, they've just switched on the lights.
Is the Bublé album out yet? For me, that's the marker.
That's the time.
What I love is alternative suggestions for Christmas. And there's a couple of things that we found is Sooty, if you want to buy Sooty, is up for sale in auction. There you go, we've got him over here. So Izzy Wizzy, let's get busy. What would you pay for Sooty and Pals?
I'd pay a lot. They're iconic.
They are
City.
iconic.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, I'm a member of the Magic Circle. We have magicians around the world.
Really?
There are 1,500 members around the
You're
world.
a talented guy.
Hey, there's no messing with
Nothing you don't do, Andrew.
I'll disappear soon.
Whoosh.
But Sooty is a special member of the Magic Circle. He's a member of the Inner Magic Circle as well. So you can do that in auction. Even better than that, though. Infamy. They've all got
an infamy.
The tunic, the very tunic that Kenneth Williams, I don't know if you can see that, you might have a picture of it, but Kenneth Williams, the very tunic that he wore, is also up for sale. And so in auction, so if you are looking instead of those vouchers, instead of the cash, either of those would do very nicely.
If you're a little bit stumped on a Christmas gift, you know what to do there. You've got Sooty and you've got a tunic from Carry On. Thank you so much, Andrew Eborn. Always great to have you with us. Very entertaining as well as insightful.
Andrew, thank you.
Rhiannon Jones is here next with your sport. She'll be looking ahead to England and the rest of the international football coming in later in the week.